Next, access to damage from hand. This is going to go in a lot, and this has not as much to do with positioning so much as lines of play. When I play a card like Mincantor or Warbeast, in the past, if I position here, let's pull up a board real fast. If I positioned and I go out here and I'm like, okay, I'm here in this space, right? And I know my opponent's considering playing Mincantor, so what I do is I daisy chain my important creature down. So I play, here I am, and I play down here in this corner, and then I play the next one down here in this corner, right? So I daisy chain down so that my important creature and myself are extremely separated so that there's no way that the Mincantor can hit me and my creature, right? That's one of the things that we're looking at. Why does that matter to the guy? There's still a correct decision there. You either hit him plus one creature or you hit the two creatures. Either way, right? Well, not necessarily. Mincantor is being played from hand. That's a card they spent. It's a resource that they spent. And part of it as a resource is its ability to do damage to the general. Not just to do damage to the general specifically, but also to clear a path so that other things can do damage to the enemy general. So they have used a resource. If their access to that resource is in high abundance, then the opportunity cost, and therefore the difference between the two decisions, becomes less intense because they have it multiple times. If I've got two Mincanthors, it's not as critical that I make the right decision. If I have a lot of damage from hand, it's not as critical that I point my Mincantor or my Holy Immolation in the correct spot, because I still have sufficient damage to kill the enemy general. Whereas before, I might have placed my opponent in an impossible situation where if I Mincantor down there, then I really don't have the cards left over to kill him. But if I don't get him right now, if I do hit him right now, then that creature might pull him back into the game. I placed him in a difficult decision. Through my positioning, I placed my opponent in a difficult position where he had to make a decision based on his skill level. My skill affected how hard his decisions were. And that's why access to extremely high damage from hand reduces the difficulty of the decisions we make. You don't have to make as hard a decision if you have an abundance of resources. And one of the resources that you can have is how much damage can you present to the opposing general. That positioning play I made was all about trying to get him to put his damage in the wrong spot. That's what it was for. And both players had to make good decisions whenever that was the case. Now, we don't even think of Mincantor as a damage card anymore. In the current meta, we don't think of it as a damage card at all because everything else is better than it. There was a time that 4 damage at rush speed with Frenzy, so that it was guaranteed through a provoke. That was a powerful source of damage. A very powerful source of damage. Now, if you really think of Mincantor as a damage card, you're probably not thinking about the game in the right way. And so that's one of my things that I believe are weakening the importance of positioning. Because that positioning decision that I talked about right there, that is the way you play against Holy Immolation and Mincantor. Was the way that you played against it. Now it's such an insignificant decision for them. What's the point in making that play? It's not. You never want to put a decision into your opponent's hand unless they're wrong both ways, no matter what they do. If they're right no matter what they do, then you don't want to do that. That's a weak play. And so that's what I wanted to get at there. Next thing, fast mana. Cards like Flash Incarnate, Dark Sacrifice, slow because it can pick up a mana orb for free, and to a lesser extent, but still a good example, is Wisp. Fast mana makes it difficult to determine when you need to be concerned about specific cards. And it's difficult on a purely random element. Okay? We need to remember that what cards they draw and have access to is purely random. They're drawn cards. They're drawn cards from a deck. They're drawing cards randomly from a deck. We accept that importance of draw cards at random, we accept that is a necessary evil to the game to keep it fresh. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I can turn up my mic. Thank you. I'm glad somebody said something. Crap. Well, maybe I can't turn up my mic, actually. I'll just try to have to speak louder. I'm sorry. So, fast mana is important. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. That sucks because I got like pretty far into it whenever I was talking. Yeah. Oh, crap. Let me see if I can sort that out. Gosh dang it. That's frustrating. No, that's not it. I still caught everything you just... Okay, good. Okay, cool. I won't... We'll see if we can boost my microphone real fast. Nope, can't do that. Settings. Output. Audio. I can't seem to locate how to do that right at the moment. I apologize, guys. I will try very hard to speak up, which sucks because I'm not a... Wait a minute. I think it was in Mixer. Yes! There we go. Let's see here. We're going to raise that to 150%. That should do that. Okay, so I should be a lot louder now, hopefully. Anyways, all right, so I talked about fast mana. I talked about how it makes positioning decisions. Okay, so we were talking about fast mana. There we go. All right, I think I'm back on the right page. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear me now, or that you can hear me better. We have fast mana makes it more difficult for players to predict and understand what their opponent will be doing in the next couple turns. I don't want to have to play around Holy Immolation on 4 mana because I'm battling for the orbs at that time. Okay? Which forces me to play very towards the midline. And I shouldn't have to concede the orbs because that's a major disadvantage. I shouldn't have to concede the orbs during the first couple turns for fear that they might have slow plus Holy Immolation in hand. Okay? Conceding the orbs to an aggressive mid-range Argion list is almost a guaranteed 100% loss. However, losing 2 creatures plus taking 4 damage to the face to an aggressive mid-range Argion list is also almost a guaranteed loss. And I've been placed in a low probability guessing game where I have to try to guess, does he have slow and Holy Immolation in hand? I know he's looking for it, but very few cards have been seen. So I'm basically pulling the lever on a slot machine is what I'm doing. I'm trying to determine, I'm trying to make a guess based on extremely limited information. All I got to see, all I got to see before, all I got to see before having to make the decision on whether to avoid Holy Immolation or not is one single card and whether my opponent replaced or not. That's it. And I'm making that decision most of the time on if he replaced or not. If he replaced, then I'm guessing he probably didn't have slow plus Holy Immolation in hand because I know he's looking for it. I know he's looking for it. If he did replace, right now I will gamble that he has it. Because it's the strongest play he can make on turns 4 and 5 mana plays. And so that's what I assume he's looking for if he replaced. And if he didn't replace, then I'm going to assume he already has it. And that he really likes his hand. And so fast mana confounds the decision-making progress, or the decision-making process for players who are extremely experienced at the matchup. And so that's another factor that I believe contributes to lessening the importance of positioning in, because again, you go back to it's a no-win situation. Next, you have thank you. Thanks, Phil. Next, you have access to ranged point removal. Okay, ranged point removal, for example, Punish or Thumping Wave. They let you do something else with that situation I was talking about earlier. If I have to move 2 forward and then I need to daisy chain away from your Mercantor Warbeast, I have to play 2 creatures, and that's what we were talking about earlier. How do you play away from Holy Immolation / Mercantor? You're trying to give yourself the option that they have to either kill the creature that's important or hit you in the face, right? Okay? One of the major factors of that decision-making process is that they have to use a resource. Either way, no matter which decision they make, they have used their Mercantor and are therefore less likely to have another one, and I can eventually make the bet against them having it. That's part of the strength of these type of plays. However, if they have an extremely high access to point-based removal, they can take the alternative, and note, this is important, that that removal is cheap. Then they can still make a strong tempo play while still removing the threatening creature. And they still haven't used their Mercantor Holy Immolation or what have you. I'm not specifically saying just those cards, but they still haven't used those. And so I didn't do anything but offer them a cheap exchange of a creature that I acknowledge is important to the matchup. Now, I know that there's going to be removal in the game. I do. And it's important that there is removal, because single target removal is a skill-based decision. It is. But like in Magic, where they have started making point-based removal, targeted removal, either A, still cheap, but very conditional, so that people can play around the conditions of the removal, or B, very expensive, but non-conditional. It's because you need to lose tempo when you make a one-for-one decision. You shouldn't be able to gain tempo and remain control of the game. If you're seeing my whiteboard in the background, it's because I'm a high school teacher. That's what I do for a living. And so access to point-based removal, again, lowers the opportunity cost of making the decision to kill the creature. So whenever you have a high access, which means that you have access to cheap point-based removal, you lessen the value of complex decisions, or complex positioning decisions. Because now, in addition to already acknowledging the risk that I might eat a Mercantor or a Holy Immolation, I now have to acknowledge that he might very well remove the only important creature in the little complex play that I made and still make a tempo play. And so now that positioning, that style of play, carries the added risk of not only them having the exact response that they want, but also that they might have a slightly different response than what you're trying to get out of their hand. That's still a powerful play. And so that's the next one. The next thing I think that lessens skill, but not necessarily positioning, are silver bullet cards. These are cards that have, you got to kill the werewolf with the silver bullet. Everybody's heard that analogy before. But whenever you're talking about silver bullet cards, you're talking about the cards that do one very specific thing. They have a one very specific goal. I don't play Crossbones because he's good in every match. You know what I mean? I play him whenever Mechazord decks are so rampant that I don't know what the hell to do with myself. Right? I play Hollow Grovekeeper, not in every deck. I play him whenever I'm going to go to a tournament. I think Lionar's really strong. These cards are not good design. I wish I could phrase it some other way. They need to exist in some fashion because they're important in tournaments. They are. So I guess not good design is a bad way to phrase it after all. That was mean of me.